Welcome to bonding part 1, and we will discuss polar bond today. So what is bond polarity? When two identical atoms form a covalent bond, each atom will have an equal share of the bond's electron pair. For example, if you look at the next slide, we can see hydrogen and hydrogen is equal in terms of electronegativity. So it has a similar attraction towards electron in the bonding. So you can see what we call as symmetrical cloud of electron in the bonding. But if you look at hydrogen and chlorine, chlorine obviously is far more electronegative compared to hydrogen. So you can see the cloud of electron is not equal. So chlorine being higher electronegative compared to hydrogen has greater amount of electron attracted to it. So electronegativity is the term described to relative attraction of an atom for electrons in a bond. So if there is polar bond in a compound or in a molecule, then there is an increase of dipole moment. And this shows the relation between the dipole moment and the bond length. As you can see, the higher the polarity, the higher the dipole moment, and the bond length is shorter. So the degree of polarity can increase the ionic character of the compound. So that will determine how much actually, how do you handle the compound. If you are to dissolve the compound or the substance, then you have to think about the polarity, and therefore you can think about the solvent, what kind of solvent for you to be used to dissolve that particular compound. So let us look at the video related to this.
In electronegativity between the two atoms is less than about 1.7. No electrons are stolen, but instead the two atoms share 2 electrons. The electron from this atom.
So this is the basis of covalent bond. If the difference in electronegativity between the elements, for example, between nonmetals and nonmetals, is less than 1.7, then there will be no transfer of electron. But there is a polarity and there is a sharing of electron.
Feels the attraction from the other nucleus, and so does the electron from this atom. So the atoms share the 2 electrons to form a covalent bond. Covalent bonds can be polar or nonpolar. If the electronegativity difference between the atoms is not high enough to cause ionization, but is at least more than 0.5 or so, like with hydrogen and chlorine, instead of completely stealing the electron, the chlorine will just sort of hog the electrons in the resulting covalent bond. The more electronegative atom.
So you can see if the difference of electronegativity, for example, more than 0.5, so in this case is hydrogen and chlorine, it is not enough for the electron to be transferred to chlorine. However, you can see the attraction of the electrons to chlorine is much higher.
Electrons in the resulting covalent bond. The more electronegative atom.
Right? So in this case, a polar covalent bond is formed. So obviously this compound is polar.
In a polar covalent bond, pulls the electron density towards itself. And as a result of the slight electron excess, we call this atom partially negative. denoted by the symbol delta minus. The atom whose electron is getting
Okay, noted on the partially negative, and hydrogen will be partially positive due to this unequal distribution of electron.
pulled away is slightly electron deficient and therefore partially positive, or delta plus. If the electronegativity difference is less than 0.5, the covalent bond is said to be nonpolar. In a nonpolar covalent bond,
right? So this is another keyword. If the electronegativity is less than 0.5, you can see it is nonpolar, and most likely the electron cloud will be equally shared.
electrons are shared more or less evenly, or in the case of two atoms of the same element, precisely evenly. The atoms will have no partial charges at all. Other than strange phenomena like metallic bonding, these are the main ways atoms bind to one another. Remember that you can predict the type of bond that will form between two elements by comparing their electronegativities. If the difference is very
the
low,
keyword is there. In order to determine a covalent bond and ionic bond, and also among covalent bond, you have polar or nonpolar covalent bond. Electronegativity is the keyword.
less than 0.5 or so, it will be a non-polar covalent bond where the electrons are shared evenly. If between about 0.5 and 1.7, it'll be a polar covalent bond where the electrons are shared, but one atom holds them more tightly. If above 2 or so, one atom will simply steal an electron from the other, and you'll get ions that are joined by an ionic bond. Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe to